Let's go.
You're listening to Making Data Simple, where we make the world of data effortless, relevant, and yes, even fun.
I want to talk about automation. I want to start on observability, and you're going to tell me, hey, we're going to automate that. That's fantastic. But I've even got a slide. On the left side, it'll say fixed flows, which are essentially lower agency, lower risk, but lower value. Then you got the autonomous agents over to the right, which is higher agency, but higher risk and higher value. I've got a lot of clients that struggle a little bit with that autonomy. Do I trust an agent, AI, whatever, to make the decisions for me? My question to you is, starting on the right side of that, how do you convince clients that you can trust the autonomy that these tools provide?
So the way I would answer that is, I completely agree with you. So towards the right of that example that you gave,
pipeline, that path, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, the path, right? There is high risk, but I think it all starts with trust. Customers want to use automation. They want autonomous processes. They want to use agents. But the more these agents and these automation processes are, the more accurate they are, the more trust the customers will develop in them. So yes, it is high risk. And I don't believe any customer would allow us to go make an automated action directly in their production system without some kind of change management in place. But the recommendations that we are making, our offerings are making, our products are making, if there is 99.9% confidence that these recommendations make sense, then the trust increases in those recommendations as well. And then the customer is going to allow us to take that automated action. Right? For a long time, our observability products were, I would say, informational. So we used to show information on a dashboard. We used to tell you what the problem is, but we left the customer to take the action themselves, right? After a particular point, we came up with recommendations and we said, okay, based on what we are observing, this is what we recommend. But still, the customer has to come in, take those recommendations, and then implement it. Now, this is where the autonomous process comes in, right? So where not only do we recommend, but we can actually remediate as well. And for remediation, we've been doing it for quite some time now. There are rules-based remediations we can do. But where the intelligence comes in is with AI. And with AI agents can think of it as they can think for themselves based on historical things that you have done, historical actions that you have taken, and based on the data that is made available to them, they can take automated actions. And I do see more and more customers and clients actually trusting AI, but it takes time. You know, they'll probably turn it on in their development and test systems first, and then observe the pattern to see if the recommendations are accurate and if the actions are accurate. And, slowly I see more and more of these customers moving these processes directly into production as well. Now, again, change management will be there. It's important, but our AI agents and our automation processes can tie in directly into change management systems as well.
Yeah, one of the examples I often use, just to answer myself, is like Turbonomic. You talked about Turbonomic, resource optimization. We have a site that's both internal and external called TechZone, that it's like a sandbox to test, do pilots for both internal and our customers. And we do well over 50,000 automated actions in response to resource optimization. It didn't happen overnight, but pretty soon you see it happen over and over and over and over and over again, and it's making the right decision, equal or better than a human can do. Pretty soon you say, all right, it's time to go ahead and let that take care of the automation for us. And that is done so. And it's done so in a terrific fashion. All right, Sarah, I'm coming back to you, and I'm going to work up the stack. We've got this tool called Concert that is, I'll describe it as the ultimate in observability. Can you explain it? What is IBM Concert?
Concert is trying to help you do your pipeline and your development into a view where you can actually go beyond just informational dashboard. I kind of going to use the term that Vikram said earlier, that for long time what IBM presented in some of that observability space was a dashboard of information. Concert allows you to go much past that and go to full remediation. And this is the key, because information overload and where the problem is when you're dealing with your pipeline and your patching and all those pieces is that you never actually got to the remediation or really knew which was the priority of that type of remediation. So Concert allows you to go further than just information or even trying to help you understand the priority, but help you to understand the priority and actually execute upon what needs to be done so that you can get it done. So that's what Concert can do.
I'm probably hitting this multiple times, but I'm going to hit it again. There are so many tools to manage infrastructure. Yet we're developing yet another tool. Why? What was missing in the industry or the market that was unable to achieve true observability? What would you call it? Why another tool?
Because think about when you have a problem in your system. Someone would call and say, I have a problem. Well, it's your team's fault. No, it's your team's fault. No, it's that team's fault. And they started pointing fingers at each other because there was no true end-to-end view of what the pipeline flow or where the issues was. But what happens if they could actually pinpoint where the issue was, where the triggering point of the issue was? Because sometimes you even manifest something different than it actually started, and then you end up in a bind. This way, it actually forced the teams to work together. It actually helps identify where the problem is quicker. And sometimes, more importantly, it may prevent the problem altogether by actually understanding what patches or what things should have happened before we even get to that point. So it's really more the end-to-end. It takes inputs from all the different places and kind of makes them into a view so you can actually see the full pipeline type of work.
There's no other tools out there that you would say competitors that can see the full pipeline as you describe it?
Not end-to-end like we do. Not the pieces, not all the aspects of it.
Vikram, you agree?
I do. There are several tools on the market that do pieces of it, but what happens is a customer or an end user is left to be the integrator, and they have to integrate the outputs of all these tools to form a holistic picture. And then there are tools that do only on-prem, or there are tools that do only on a particular cloud. And again, that brings the customer to be the integrator, especially if the customer is on hybrid cloud. So I do believe we are the only vendor that goes truly hybrid, and where we can show you the complete end-to-end, like what Sarah was mentioning.
So what I heard is there's no operational consistency between some of the disparate teams in IT that many clients have. Data is not shared, and you're unable to scale unless you got that holistic view. Is this a technical problem, or is it a cultural problem, and you have to break down silos, or both within clients?
It's definitely both, in my opinion. It's probably more culturally in a lot of ways than technical. I think you could probably jerry-rig technically anything, but it will help break down those cultural barriers, I think, because it allows people to see it in a more similar fashion. Because remember, they might even be just talking past each other because they have different data and a different view and a different way. So it's the biggest problem, or big piece of the problem, is cultural.
So here's what I hear you saying. You get a holistic view. Great. And we can do a holistic view across hybrid cloud like nobody else. And that will convince some of the areas in the silos. But how are you able to show them before? Go ahead.
Where we can start to try to integrate and bring in data into the system to help. Once you've given permission, we can go find some of the inputs so that you don't have to go find them on your own.
What I'm worried about is the chicken and egg thing. In other words, Concert can give you that holistic view like nobody else, but the silos have to give you that view before they can wake up. How do you break that deadlock? I'm a data guy. This is making data simple. How do you break the deadlock?
Yeah, I'll answer with an example. So if you look at our own teams within IBM, we have, hundreds of thousands of developers. We have hundreds of products that we take to market. And if you look at something as simple as, we go back to vulnerability management, right? The products we develop, of course, we try to develop them without vulnerabilities, but they are there. And when we discover them, we have to fix them. But that process of how do you discover them and how do you fix them is used to be different from team to team. And that's the silos that Sarah is talking about, right? So the cultural and organizational silos, be it, good or bad, they still exist. And every team started off with using a particular tool set. Maybe they got it off the market or they built it themselves. And they have come to believe that that's the best. And then the second team will say, no, the tools I'm using is the best, right? So that's the organizational and cultural silos that you will find. Now, for us, when we were introducing Concert to our own development teams, we never mandated teams to say, you've got to move to Concert. We said, hey, we have this new tool. We believe it can do things better and faster than the current set of processes and tools that you have. Can you give it a try? And usually, if you approach it that way, the answer will be, yeah, sure, we'll give it a try. Yes, they have to give permission, but I don't believe we came across teams that said, no, we are not going to even give it a try, right? Once they try it, they give us feedback. That's how the tool gets better. And two, they look at, okay, why do I have to go maintain a different tool set or a custom tool set to go do all these things when there's something that I can rely on and it does things faster and it automates a lot of these patches, patch management, vulnerability management, certificate management, package management, all of these things are automated, right? The reason some of these teams went and did what they did was because there was no single solution that did it for them in the past. So they had to go invent their own way. Now, it might have worked for these teams and these companies so far, but with the advent of AI and with the number of applications that we are creating, and the amount of data that we are generating, some of these age-old tools are not sufficient anymore. And that's where Concert comes in with all the automation, with the AI that we use ourselves. How can we do these things faster and better?
All right, I got it. Here's my next question to you, Vikram. We started out maybe talking at an altitude of 60,000 foot, brought it down to maybe 30,000 foot. Give me a 5,000 foot use case that describes Concert that nobody can beat IBM, a clear differentiator that puts everything in perspective.
So I will give you a use case that we recently brought out about a month back, and we call it resilience. So it is one of the postures in Concert. So there are two postures. One is risk. Everything that we have been talking about around vulnerabilities and certificate, they're all part of risk. There's a new feature that we introduced about a month and a half back. It's called resilience. Now, going back to the example that I gave you about DORA, Digital Operational Resilience Act, how do you say your system is resilient? Or how do you say your environment and application is resilient? Now, that can mean anything, right? So we have a very prescriptive definition of what resilience means. What can you do to observe resilience? It could be usability, recoverability, maintainability, so on and so forth. We can observe that for you within a matter of minutes, and we can tell you how resilient your application is, right? And our goal with resilience is you should have a higher score. So it's a score of 0 to 100. If you're in your 90s, great. But if your application has a resilience score of, let's say, 40 or 50, that's not so good. And we give you recommendations and actions on what you can do to increase your resilience score. Now, what I told you just in a matter of like 60 seconds, it's easier said than done. Teams have been trying to do resilience for a long time. But again, with the spread of applications, with how complex applications are, both on hybrid cloud, on-prem, and multiple cloud, it is very difficult for you to automate it in a manner that I'm talking about. And we are doing it. And like I said, we use it. Our own IBM SRE team uses it for the services that they take to market. They use Concert for resilience. And this is one area where I have not seen any competition out there. And even if they do it for one cloud. They do not do it for hybrid cloud. And this is how we stand out.
Sarah, anything to add to what Vikram stated?
I think he basically nailed that one. That was pretty well said.
We talked about the past. We talked about current state. If we have like a podcast 2 to 3 years from now, where do you think automation is going? What's the future of automation?
I think we'll be even more AI. There'll be even more pieces that are using the large language models, although the smaller ones. I think we'll be able to do more actions and more helping the people with those type of things. We're going to go from more just showing people information to more and more doing it directly in actions. And I think we'll go more into the native development and all that area that we're just scratching the surface of. With the acquisition of Hashi, I know no products, but that's in another realm that we're really going to start to enter in and see how our products and our solutions all start to merge even closer to that layer of that space of development, and really start working more closely with the developers and making their lives easier. So I think we're going to keep building more here and going much more into that more developer space and help there on the automation.
By the way, we broke the rule on the products. It doesn't matter at this point. That's Hashi's huge acquisition for IBM. You talk about infrastructure and automation, unbelievable, which is yet another piece of automation. Anyway, Vikram, I guess the follow-up to you is, where do you think we'll be in a couple of years from now? And if you wouldn't mind, talk a little bit about the huge acquisition we just completed. I mean, we made it a long time ago, but it just got approved and went through all approvals. How is that going to change the landscape of IBM automation?
So I'll talk about the acquisition. So Hashi has been, at the forefront of infrastructure automation. But that's not the only thing that they do. They also, and for infrastructure automation, it's Terraform that they use, which is very popular out there. But they have other great offerings like Vault that helps with certificate lifecycle management. They have, offerings like Radar and several other things that they are trying to get more and more into the developer space as well. Like I was mentioning previously about some of the automation layers that we have, infrastructure, network infrastructure, application, and so on. Hashi is really going to help us in almost all these layers. And what you will see in the next, I would say probably 30 to 90 days is most of our offerings coming together with what Hashi has and how we can provide joint value and use cases to our customers, right? So a lot of things going on there. Now, where do I see the automation portfolio going a year or 2 years from now? Look, we have great assets. We have great offerings up and down the stack. It's about how we bring all of these things together. So there's a lot of work going on in how our offerings can cross-pollinate with each other, a user easily be able to go from one to another. I also see us investing a lot in automatable actions. So far, we have done a lot with recommendations and suggestions and so on. Yes, there are a few products like Turbo that can do automated actions, but we're going to see a lot of AI-driven actions. This is where the agentic frameworks come in. It's all about, automation can only do so much as the customers will allow it to do. So if we are just providing recommendations and customers still have to manually come in and act on those recommendations, that's the step we want to eliminate. So we want to build a lot of trust in the system, and we want our customers to take automated actions. And that's the future. That's where we are going with the portfolio.
Nice job, guys. Greatly appreciated. Where can folks listening get more information around automation?
So there are a few areas, ibm.com/automation. That's, probably the area to start with. Or you could look up any one of us, the three of us, on LinkedIn, and we'd be more than happy to provide you with whatever information you need.
Well, that was my next question. Where can they reach you, Vikram? I presume LinkedIn is the best.
So LinkedIn is the best way.
Same for me.
When you're not thinking automation every day, all the time, what's your hobby?
Driving around my kids to all their sports games and standing in the rain like it is today, watching them kick some ball or throw some ball around. That basically is what I spend my entire time. I enjoy
Is that soccer we're talking about?
Soccer, lacrosse, field hockey, and wrestling. That's not really a ball in that one, but still they're rolling around on the ground. It's kind of gross, but yeah.
And what flavor of kids are we talking about here?
Well, I have two freshmen in college now. One's playing lacrosse, and then I have a sophomore in high school, and he plays soccer, wrestling.
How about you, Vikram? What do you do for fun? What's the hobby?
The hobby is running. I started during the pandemic.
You're still running?
I'm still running. I haven't been able to do a marathon yet, so I'm building stamina for it, but I've done 19 half marathons. My last one was yesterday, the Oakland Marathon.
Really?
Or Oakland
Congrats.
Half Marathon, I should say. But
did you win?
The results are still coming in because they have. I don't expect to win.
I'm just joking.
Yeah. At least I participated, but yeah, I don't expect to win. There are more professional athletes than myself. I do it for the fun.
So when's your first full marathon?
I've signed up for one in July, the San Francisco Marathon. We'll see. I've got to spend the time to train for it and build up to it. So it's difficult.
And you actually enjoy this running?
I enjoy it. It gives me peace of mind. I don't listen to music, no AirPods, nothing, completely disconnected. So it gives me a peace of mind. Yes.
I think that's probably smart. Sometimes you get your best ideas by just sitting in silence, so running in silence or something like that. So I'm with you on that.
My hobby is avoid running. That would be my hobby.
Sarah, I can completely understand you because that's how I used to be.
Hey, thank you guys both for helping me out today on automation. Sarah, appreciate it. Vikram, appreciate it.
Thank you, Al. Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Folks, hit us on almartintalksdata@gmail.com. Any questions, automation or otherwise, I'd like to hear from you, and rate us if you would. So thank you, and we'll talk to you next time. See you on the podcast. Bye-bye.